Hello, I'm Don Chioffi, and this is Straight Talk, unfiltered commentary on the news and events of the day. And as we know, it was a very successful day for democracy in the state of Vermont. I've always taken great pride in town meeting and election day, and I see that the numbers have increased and the interest has increased and the percentages were up for an off election, what we call an off election, because there weren't any statewide or national elections connected to this. But of course the major race that took place in the region obviously was the mayoral race in the city of Rutland. And I wanted to give a few comments about that race because I think it was important not only for Rutland City, but for the region as well, as it certainly involved a lot of regional issues. First of all, I'd like to compliment all of the candidates, not only in Rutland City, but in all of the towns in the region. This reaches far and wide PEG TV, and you really do deserve our compliments as citizens. It's really an understated thing in this society, just how much effort it takes to put yourself in front of the public eye and in front of the public scrutiny to run for public office. And we have lamented the fact that not enough people run for public office, but sometimes the abuse that you have to take for very little return, I might add, financially, really indicates how much passion people have to serve their community. And anyone that does that, I don't care whether they win or lose in an election, deserves our thanks for stepping up. And we really shouldn't shed tears over the fact that somebody's lost an election, because they've usually put a lot of effort in. And the ones that have, I say, stick-to-itiveness and can recoil from a defeat can usually come back if they keep a good-hearted attitude. But again, thank you to all the candidates that ran this year. You do your state and your local communities a very great service by putting yourself forward. In the mayoral race, again, congratulations to all of those who ran. It was probably one of the largest field of candidates totally, and certainly for the Board of Aldermen, that I've seen in recent history. And that bodes well for democracy in our community. The fact that those people are willing to step up and take part in an election and put their name forward. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for the average person. I've been in a lot of elections, and you kind of get used to it, and you get experienced at it. So it isn't as daunting for me because I've been there over and over 40 years in different positions. But for new people that are stepping up, it's a challenge to first of all to try to get out and meet enough people and to get your message forward. So thank you all, candidates in Rutland City, for your efforts. I'd like to start off with an analysis of the Rutland City race by saying, first of all, that there was a great division, as everybody knows, and there were some pretty divisive issues, not just the refugee issue, but any number of issues on leadership types of challenges in the city that divided the community. And that isn't all that bad, because there's always at least two sides to every question and every issue. So we shouldn't be ashamed or walk away from the fact that everything isn't always kumbaya. So the fact that there's division is a normal thing, but there seemed to be a lot more division because of the refugee issue and the fire department issue. I don't think we should let the fact that there was division deter us from the fact that when we finish an election, it's a time to come together and to heal that division. And I think the candidates that ran for office that wanted to do the healing were the ones that were successful, which proves to me one very, very valuable lesson for this election. and that is that those people who have a more cooperative and a more inclusive and a more transparent view of government were embraced by the people of the city of Rutland, and that, I think, speaks well for the future of the city. As far as Mayor Loris goes, I have to say that I've never seen a more passionate individual. I've had plenty of disagreements with the mayor, both as a town official and in this particular issue of refugee resettlement, which I view as a regional issue, not just a city issue. And there were some harsh things said on both parts, both the mayor and myself. But I have to tell you that when I had the opportunity to try to assist the Rutland County Agricultural Society, the Vermont State Fair, when they were in some severe financial difficulties, which they still are trying to emerge from, the mayor was very helpful, and he treated the Agricultural Society with the respect that I expected and asked him to do, and I was very thankful for that. He was quite helpful in getting us through the last year, and he, along with Treasurer Wilton, made our job a lot easier than it would have been otherwise. And over the course of 5 terms, 10 years in office, there's quite a load that has to be carried, and I don't think that we should hold on to the divisiveness and some of the pretty harsh rhetoric that took place in this campaign. We shouldn't hold on to it personally. I think we can get pretty intense sometimes about the issues, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But I really don't think that we should lose sight of the personal fact that any man, and especially the mayor, who has put himself forward and has served the community of Rutland and the Rutland region for 10 years, and I know he's done yeoman work in the legislature. As a matter of fact, many times he was criticized for being up in the legislature during the legislative season more than he was in Rutland. But I know why he was there, and it was a good purpose. It was to cultivate the kind of relationships that he needed to cultivate to try to bring as much largesse to the city of Rutland as he could, especially in a state that's pretty much gerrymandered to serve above the Mason-Dixon line in Middlebury more than we poor waifs down here in southern Vermont. So I thank the mayor, and I thank him for his service, and I think, as I said, I thank any candidate that puts himself forward, but certainly in a position of mayor of the city of Rutland, he's done some tremendous things for the city, and he does deserve the thanks of the city. So, and I certainly wish him the best in his future. The mayor, however, wasn't the only loser in this campaign. Obviously, he lost a pretty significant race, and I don't think we should look at it as just a minor setback. Obviously, when you're in office for 10 years, you would expect that you would be able to continue. And he put his message out there, and the people chose to go in a different direction. And he didn't just lose the race. I mean, it was pretty significant. And one of the reasons that I think that is a telling factor is that many of us on one particular side, on the side of caution and financial caution and security caution on this refugee resettlement program, took a position that we needed to stand back and get a lot more answers to questions that we had that weren't being answered by anybody in government, at the state level, at the federal level, and certainly at the local level. And all we wanted was a chance to, in the calm of a discussion within a community, that, that honors and respects the citizens of that community who have to pay the bills, to take a break from it. And when that petition wasn't honored, I think that was the most significant, affecting factor right from the get-go in this particular mayoral race. Now, we know there were other issues, but I really think it's significant that we had stated early on that we needed to have a vote in order to simply gain some time to get some answers. It was presented as something else, which it wasn't. It was presented as a vote against immigration, and this whole program has absolutely nothing to do with immigration. I mean, it's not an immigration program. Had to do with refugee resettlement, and that's an entirely different thing than immigration. But it was presented as an anti-refugee or an anti-Muslim or an anti-foreigner or an anti-American, none of which it was. And we stated that right from the beginning, and we also stated that most of the people in this region, especially in Rutland City, but not only Rutland City, in the town that I live in, Rutland Town, basically felt the same way. And we petitioned our governments in order to have a say in this matter and be treated with the respect that any citizen should be treated with. When those petitions weren't honored, it was significant enough that I think the people were upset, probably enough at that point that the election might have turned out this way without a lot of pushback. But the mayor had the cover, and there are other losers in this campaign besides the mayor. The biggest loser in this campaign, I think, and I think it's really even more significant than Mayor Loris being defeated. The biggest loser was the Rutland Herald, because the Rutland Herald gave the mayor cover on this particular issue and other issues throughout the campaign. Very difficult to get the other side, or both sides, or any sides other than his side, presented in the Rutland Herald. Very difficult. And of course, editorially, they backed the mayor, which is their right. But even on the news pages, I think if you add up the number of articles where the mayor was given more than enough pluses, with Rutland Welcomes and with the franchise or stakeholders and all of the Rutland welcoming talk and the church talk and on and on and on and on, and never gave anywhere near equal, even close to equal coverage to the opponent side on gaining the facts of the issue. Now look at that here. There you go. I just shouldn't do that when you're on live television, but I didn't. Sorry about that. One of those beauties of live television. When the Rutland Herald took the position that they did, such a forceful position, then they put their own credibility in jeopardy. So when the mayor was defeated by the numbers that he was defeated by, it's a defeat for the Rutland Herald because they were back in the same program. So essentially it was a vote of the community on the Rutland Herald's credibility. Emila Merzandovic, the UCRI, the VOLAG, the Refugee Resettlement Coordinator, she was a loser in this program, making the statement that she did that we want to keep secrecy on this thing because if we don't, it'll bring people out of the woodwork. Well, guess what? The people all just came out of the woodwork on election day, and they did exactly what we said they were going to do because we had indicated all along, Rutland First that is, of which I was proud to be a member, just one member, but Rutland First took the position that the overwhelming majority of the community was against the speed and the secrecy of this program and wanted to take a break, and were against some of the parameters of the program, which didn't allow us to determine how many how many refugees totally would be settled in Rutland, what the capacity of Rutland and the region was to assimilate these people, and any number of other issues that we asked through FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests of the State Department and of Senator Leahy's office and of the Refugee Resettlement Program, and never had those FOIA requests answered. That's a violation of federal law. You just don't do that kind of stuff in a democracy. And I guess Stacey Blake from VRRP was a loser as well. Governor Shumlin was a loser, even though he wasn't even in office. You know, he was a loser again in this election because he and the mayor worked behind everyone's back, along with Senator Leahy and the administration in Washington, to put this secret refugee program into place. And they're doing it across the country in a whole mess of towns and cities just the size of Rutland City. If this can happen in Rutland City, a small city nationwide of 16,000, it can happen anywhere. So we are Anywhere USA. And we're the hub and the focal point. We're the eye of the storm in this refugee resettlement program. And the proud little Rutland First group that did its homework and learned what it could learn through a whole mess of sources that we had to dig and dig and dig, actually preserved democracy in this region by doing this research and by continually bringing it out in social media and on airwaves such as this right here. PEG TV has been a valuable resource because this is unfiltered. Nobody can censor my comments here. Nobody can cut my comments up to make them look silly or to make them look out of place. They can't do that, and that's the beauty and the wealth and the dynamics of a TV station like this. It's a valuable resource for the community. And you have a radio station. We have a local program, you all know, with Tim Philbin, and that's an open mic. Now, he can shut you off anytime he wants, but he usually engages in discussion with people that are intelligent and can carry on a conversation. And I call there often and talk to him and discuss these issues. That's unfiltered as well. Rutland Herald, that's another story. That's filtered information. I can write a letter. It may get in, it may not get in. You might write one and they'll pick and choose which ones they want to print. We saw a whole mess of letters for the Refugee Resettlement Program for the refugees, welcoming, and how wonderful it is and wonderful it is. Didn't see too many against. Now, that's not what the results of the election proved. So, in any case, Senator Leahy lost in this election. He lost big time because he's been a supporter, an avid supporter of the Refugee Resettlement Program, and he refused to give us the answers to our questions. And, you know, this is our government. We can't get answers to these questions, and yet you can let a 501c3 corporation decide these kinds of major issues for a city the size of Rutland, determine its future, determine the cost, determine its culture. This isn't right. And the people validated that in this election, that it wasn't right. It isn't right to do it that way. Governor Scott, he lost in this election because during the primaries, he got beat. And the reason that he got beat in the primary by Mr. Listman here in Rutland County was that he wasn't up to snuff on this refugee issue, and he still hasn't been. He's not backing the president on the security issues facing this country, and that's a shame because he's supposed to be a Republican. And he didn't back it down here, and that's why he lost in Rutland County. And I supported him in the, if I'm a Republican, I supported him in his election campaign, but I'm very disappointed to see him take the stance on this sanctuary city issue in the state of Vermont. We are a country that's founded in the principle of adherence to the laws. We take great pride, we've taken great pride over the years, and we continue to take pride in the fact that we are a nation of laws. And if you don't follow the rule of law, you have no country. You might as well be a third world banana republic. So when you take a position that you are going to pick and choose which ones of the federal laws you're going to enforce, you're in a very, very dangerous position. And I understand that he's playing to the majority the majority party in the state of Vermont, which is the Democratic Party. I understand that. But I think it's incumbent on a Republican governor, if he's going to wear the Republican label, to start acting like a Republican, a conservative. We won the national election legitimately, 64 million people. We have a president, he has a program, he has a platform, and I don't think we should treat him any differently than we treat any other president in the history of this country. He is entitled to enact his program because he's been validated by the citizens of the country. And to have governors of his own party in a state like Vermont go against his platform and his positions, I think is disingenuous to the party principles of the state. And I don't think Governor Scott is a bad man. I don't think he's evil, and I certainly don't. I don't think he has any ill intentions. But I just don't understand how he can possibly take a stance against the rule of law, and put law enforcement in this country, or excuse me, in this state, in a predicament where they have an oath of office to protect and serve, and that means to enforce the laws not only of the state but of the federal government as well. When they see an illegal act committed, and it's a serious illegal act, they have a responsibility under their oath to perform the service that they were trained to do. And when somebody tells them not to, I think they put them in a very, very difficult position, a violation of that oath. And as far as the law enforcement officers themselves, if they take a position that they're not going to enforce a law simply because some politician tells them not to, then I think they're in the wrong profession. I think they better find another profession where they can do what their actual mission is. Because it isn't to answer to a politician who can change by the year, sometimes by the day, not certainly by the minute, but party politics comes and goes. It's an ebb and flow. One party's on the high rise right now, and it will be at a low some other time. And the Democrats found that out over the last 8 years, and now they're not in power, and we see the problems that we're having because they're having a definite brain challenge as to how to deal with this change of party. I don't know why they should. It's happened over and over and over during the history of our country. So they should get used to it. It will change again, but it won't change very soon if they keep up the way they're keeping up, because I don't think people want to go back to anarchy and protest every time some bill comes up that you don't like. We're going to go out and protest now. I'm wondering where they're getting all this time to protest. I've been told that they can do that because they're being paid to do it, so they're getting money from someplace. But most of us have to work, and I'm retired at 72, and I still have to do some work in order to be able to survive in this state with the taxes the way they are. Property taxes are increasing every year. George Soros, he lost big time in this, Mr. Globalization. And this refugee resettlement effort is part of the globalization effort. It's part of the no borders effort. And when we're transferring literally millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of people from another culture, for what reason? And we say diversity. I don't need any diversity of my laws. My laws in this country are created by the democratic process, and we have a constitution, and we have a set of laws, and I don't think we need another culture coming in here telling us what our laws should be. As far as the culture itself, that culture has been at war with each other for 1,600 years, and I don't think we're going to solve that here, and I don't certainly think that we need to bring that kind of a culture of war and confusion and unrest into our country. And I don't want to get, I don't want to get into the religion. I will do that on another occasion on this program, and I will do it more intellectually with backup data. But we have a nation of laws, and we should adhere to that. and our leaders should adhere to that, or they don't deserve to lead. The winners in this race, obviously, Dave Allaire is a winner, and in my opinion, Dave has always been a winner. He's a good and decent and honorable person. He has a more calm attitude, and I think quite a bit less of an ego than his predecessor. And I think maybe that's one of the things that caused the race to come out the way it did. And again, I don't fault Chris Loris for that, because I see that happening. I've seen that happen over the course of my lifetime to politicians, no matter which party they're in and no matter what level they're at. When they get in, too many of them, not all of them, but too many of them. I saw it happen with Governor Snelling, who was a good man, a good and decent man, but the longer he stayed in office, the more arrogant he got, the more self-assured he got, and the more dismissive he got of his opponents. And I think it comes with the territory. When he was succeeded by Madeleine Kunin, she seemed to be I was in the Democratic Party then. She seemed to be a good leader, but the more she stayed in office, the more arrogant she got. And I call it the accession to arrogance that comes with too many years in a position of high authority and high responsibility. You get to feel, in some cases, too self-assured, and that the little people don't count anymore. Make no mistake about it. The election that we just had in Rutland, Vermont, is a microcosm of what happened on November 8th in our country. The people who pay the bills, the people that dig the ditches, the people that labor with their hands, the people that have to worry about whether they can afford their gas bill, their fuel bill, the people that have to split their wood to heat their homes, the people that have to worry about where they're going to come up with the money for their children's education, thousands and thousands of dollars, so that they can go and learn how to knit pussy hats. I don't know what they're doing there, but in any case, the little people of this world that carry the load got sick and tired of being dismissed by their government, told they didn't count anymore, not considered, told that they were wrong, and basically left aside while the power structure on the East and the West Coast ran the country the way they wanted to run it for their own, many times personal benefit. That happened right here in Rutland. And the people spoke out. Finally, they spoke out, and they had their voice. And that's proven by the high voter participation rate for a non, what do you call it, for a non-statewide and a non-national election, what you call an off-year election. And even then, those voter counts are not the way they should be. You would wonder why more people don't vote, but when you can get into the 40s percentage-wise, that's pretty good in the state of Vermont. Rutland Town's always been higher, and even in Rutland Town, we didn't have any contentious issues, so we had in the high, close to 30, just about close to 30%, which is okay for us. But it was a high voter turnout in Rutland City, and the reason was the people are concerned. They were concerned that they had to get back a hold of their government, and they did. So, there's a lot of other winners, and I may talk at them at another day. Obviously, President Trump won again because he wanted to put a break on this refugee resettlement program. The red counties all across the country were the winners in this program, and now we put us back in that category. So, wrapping up here today, it was a tremendous election year and a great year for the citizens of this region, and Again, I thank you for your participation in democracy, and we'll see you next time on Straight Talk. Thank you.